Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for From Data Chaos to Clarity. My name is David Kettinger, the marketing leader here at QuickLaunch Analytics, and today we're going to talk about how in today's competitive landscape, relying on disjointed data is no longer a sustainable strategy. And over the next hour, we'll share a blueprint for building a unified analytics ecosystem that really empowers your entire organization. So I'm thrilled to be joined by our very special guest, Steve Schmidt from the Washington Companies, who's here to share their incredible transformation story there. And just some housekeeping items. We are planning on leaving some time at the end for questions. So please use the Q&A panel or section of the Zoom panel to submit any questions that you might have throughout today's session. We'll also make the recording and slides available after the webinar in case you want to review those later or share them with your team. All right, so let's jump into it. For those of you who are new to us, QuickLaunch Analytics has been a dedicated partner in modern BI and analytics for over 2 decades. And we used to be known as Preferred Strategies, but went through a rebrand this year, which has been quite a exciting journey. But we're headquartered in San Francisco Bay Area. And our core mission is really to simplify the often complex world of data analytics and really provide a framework to integrate all your corporate data sources directly into Power BI. So we accomplish this by delivering a comprehensive platform that centralizes and transforms your data ecosystem into this unified enterprise-wide foundation for trusted information. And what we've seen is this really allows companies to really accelerate their time to insights and drive business outcomes that really previously weren't possible. I'm excited to have Steve here to share some of those business outcomes with you today. And just a little bit more on us. So again, my name is David Kettinger, and I'm currently leading the marketing team. But my journey to this role has been a bit unique. For the first 7 years at the company, I was a data analytics consultant, kind of working hands-on to build to build and customize solutions for our customers. And now I've kind of shifted and have this incredible opportunity to tell the customer stories. So today we have one of the best stories, in my opinion, to tell. As again, I'm joined by Steve Schmidt from the Washington Companies, and I've had the privilege of speaking with Steve on a few different occasions over the past couple of years. And I'm always intrigued by what he has to say, about the progress that they're making at Washington Companies. And don't let his picture fool you. Steve's also a mountain man. He hails from the great state of Montana over there in Missoula. So excited to have Steve here. Over the next hour or so, we've really structured a deep dive for you. We'll start by kind of defining the core challenge. And then we'll walk through our 3-part framework, or blueprint, and then we'll jump in and Steve will share sort of the real world version of that blueprint, and how they put it into action at the Washington Companies. And then we'll wrap up with some key takeaways, next steps, and Q&A at the end. All right, so enough setup. Let's get into the content and really start with the core challenge, the what we call the enterprise data dilemma. So today, businesses are dealing with all types of headaches and challenges when it comes to data analytics. So the first is you really have this, application expansion and integration headaches. Most companies run multiple business systems that don't naturally communicate with each other, which really can create these informational silos. And next, you just really have this data explosion, right? So whether it's the volume of data or the variety of data, it just continues to grow exponentially, which makes it hard for organizations to organize and manage that effectively. And then next is really just the rapid technological change that we're seeing in the space now. So you have obviously moved to cloud platforms. You have new AI capabilities coming on almost every day. You have analytics tools that are evolving rapidly, which really makes it challenging to stay current with it all. And then on top of that, we've seen that it's really hard to find the right talent. So you have these talent shortages and workforce turnover, and trying to find skilled analytics professionals seems to be increasingly difficult and expensive. And then you always have this pressure from a governance and regulatory standpoint, and how do you keep your data secure um, as you approach these analytics initiatives, right? So these challenges sort of create this perfect storm for organizations as they're trying to realize the full potential of their data assets. But luckily, there is a path through this complexity. So the solution is really this proven three-pillar blueprint that I personally help implement for customers. And the first is just we need to connect all the disparate enterprise systems. Whether that's your ERP, your CRM, your IoT devices, the list goes on. And then next, we need to centralize that information into a single trusted foundation. And then finally, we conquer the business complexity by transforming that raw data into these unified models that everyone can understand and use from a self-service reporting and analytics standpoint. So I wanted to just spend a few minutes here unpacking each of these pillars. So first, let's talk about the connect pillar. So the problem is that most of your valuable data is trapped in these disconnected silos that what I found at a lot of our customers that we worked with, force people to do these manual efforts. They're getting extracts from IT, they're dumping those into Excel, they're massaging the data, and then they have to do it over again next month, right? And the solution here is really you need to deploy these automated data pipelines that unify all of these sources for you. And the benefit here is really immediate. So you eliminate that manual extraction time. You eliminate the distrust in data and the errors that can cause from that manual work. And then you really create this single consistent flow of information across your entire business, so that people start to trust the data and know that it's always it's being validated and it's being refreshed, and so it's really goes a long way with building the trust. And really what this looks like from an architecture standpoint is in the QuickLaunch lens, we use a combination of our data replicator for SQL databases. And then we also seamlessly integrate with other industry-leading data movement tools like Fivetran. And this really allows us to reliably and automatically pull data from virtually any enterprise source, whether it's an on-premise ERP like JD Edwards, or modern cloud applications like your CRM or Salesforce. We take that data and then we land it into this centralized foundation. So that brings us to pillar two. So centralized, right? The problem here is that once you've connected to all these source systems, it needs a home. You need to land it somewhere. It could be a data warehouse, it could be an operational data store. But what we found is that these traditional warehouses are a little rigid, and they're not really built for the scale of modern data and AI requirements. So our latest solution is a cloud native data lakehouse architecture, which we use platforms like Databricks and Fabric to build. And the benefit here is, you have this scalable, secure, governed foundation that's really ready for any analytics challenge, whether it's today's challenge or in the future. And when we look at this from an architectural standpoint, this means moving data via these automated pipelines into a lakehouse. Again, we use Databricks and Microsoft Fabric, but Google BigQuery has their lakehouse offering. Snowflake's is another player. And I think to really understand, the power of the lakehouse, you kind of got to look at how we got here. So for many years in business intelligence, we had, this traditional data warehouse, and it was highly structured, it was reliable, and it was really good for business intelligence reporting. But over the last 10 years, maybe a little bit more, we've really realized it's a bit inflexible and can't handle a lot of the variety of modern data, especially when you look at unstructured data and just massive volumes that new technology needs in order to train and optimize. So on the other side of the traditional data warehouse, we have the introduction of the data lake, right? So this is this massive cloud repository that could store any type of data at scale, right? And it was perfect for data scientists and in AI and machine learning, but this flexibility often came at the cost of governance, and so it kind of led to these it's called data swamps, where really just information that business users couldn't trust. And so the evolution of data lakehouse really eliminates the divide. It's the combination, or the best of both worlds. And so it's delivering the structure and governance of the warehouse alongside the flexibility and scalability of the data lake. So yeah, our foundation pack includes the lakehouse setup and configuration, along with a suite of management tools and methodologies, like our QuickLaunch Delta editor, that really helps you with administration and creating automated scripts for auditing and maintenance to really ensure that your lakehouse is governed and performant and secure. And so the last pillar that I probably think is the most critical is the conquer pillar, and this is where we are conquering the business complexity with these enterprise grade data models or semantic models. We deliver and build ours in Power BI, but the concept is the same. And the problem is that even centralized data is raw and it's technical and it's unrelated. So it's not ready for business users. So for example, if you want to combine Salesforce CRM data with JD Edwards ERP data, you still need to be able to find shared dimensions and figure out how you're going to relate this information together so that it makes sense to business users. So our solution here is our QuickLaunch application packs. These are pre-built enterprise-grade data models that act as this business-friendly translation layer. And so the benefit is really the accelerated time to value. It's that single version of the truth, and really it's the mechanism in which you unlock the self-service analytics for your teams. So the architecture behind Conquer is really our intellectual property, 25 years or so in the making. And we take that cleansed data from the lake house and then structure it into this enterprise grade semantic model in Power BI. And this isn't just renaming columns, it's really embedding decades of application specific expertise. So we're doing things like building in thousands of predefined metrics and KPIs. We're standardizing financial hierarchies in the semantic model. We're building in as of aging logic and unit of measure and currency conversion, and really building out robust security frameworks so that when a business user connects in Power BI, the complex work is really already done for them. And the end result is this trusted analytics, which you can see on the right here for every department. And so all of these business areas can be fed from one enterprise model. And the other big benefit of this approach is that you can start to do sort of cross department analytics, right? So for supply and demand planning, for example, you can pull data from sales and inventory and procurement and really start to build that 360-degree view of your business. All right. So when you put it all together, you get a complete data ecosystem. And so, in the context of QuickLaunch analytics solution, we have our foundation pack, which really provides the core infrastructure. This is the automated pipelines, the lake house, and the management tools for that. And then we also have these application packs, these enterprise grade data models that really plug into the foundation and provide that deep application specific intelligence for systems like JD Edwards, for Vista, for OneStream, Salesforce, et cetera. And again, really, they form this end-to-end solution that takes you from raw data to actionable insights. So I know I kind of hurried through some of those concepts, but I really wanted to make sure we save time for the main show here, which is introducing the Washington companies. So I know theory and architecture is great, but really at the end of the day, results are what matter. And so to see this blueprint in the real world, I want to pass it over to Steve. Steve, thanks for letting us um, unpack this framework and for joining us today. I guess, do you mind just introducing yourself real fast and your company, and then kind of share the story of how this came to light at the Washington companies?
Sure. So my name is Steve Schmidt. I'm with Washington Companies. We are a portfolio of privately held companies, um, traditionally around heavy equipment, construction, mining. You probably never heard of us, but we've been all around you. So for instance, if you ever taken a flight and looked out the window and saw the wingtips on the end of your Boeing jet, we actually hold a patent for those and make them. We have two railroads, two shipyards. We're in marine transportation, tug and barge, and intercoastal modal. We have a large copper and moly mine in Butte. We're in environmental remediation, which is a big construction company. We do things like Superfund cleanups, remove dams to restore waterways. Let's see, we also have foundations, scholarships, and we manage those as well. And the reason why we're called the Washington companies is because, as I said, all these companies are privately held. They're all owned by one person, a person by the name of Dennis Washington, who's basically a self-made billionaire. We act as an internal IT organization that service all of his companies. So it's kind of like we're a consulting firm, and all of our customers are Mr. Washington's companies. I've been here for 18 years. I was brought in 18 years ago to bring in business intelligence to the enterprise companies.
Wow, that's quite a diversified organization. I'm sure each one of those companies has their own reporting requirements and complexities, right? So um,
Yeah, they're all on JD Edwards, and they're all using our BI solution, but that's about the only commonality between them.
gotcha. Cool. Well, let's move on. So, Steve, I know your journey didn't start with this blueprint. Can you walk us through your experience with trying to build this solution internally and some of the things that you found from that?
Yeah, so this would be like the money question here, right? Build or buy, and without a doubt, with 18 years of of doing this, it's buy a solution. Um, because we know that we bought into QuickLaunch because we know the buying a solution uh, way of doing things just works because we've been doing it 18 years ago. We bought the SAP Business Objects and we've been using it since then. But now that we want to move to analytics and Power BI, we're doing the same thing with QuickLaunch. Uh, Before QuickLaunch was available, we wanted to build our own version of these data marts for E1 to use with Power BI. And we teamed up with, we tried twice doing this, and we teamed up with two platinum level partners that Microsoft introduced us to and recommended them. And they were very good. They were very good partners technically. but they didn't understand E1. And what we learned is the knowledge of E1 is a big deal. How E1 uses journaling and how you can use that to build the marts. How E1 handles deleted records. How are you going to replicate that in a data mart? So on and so forth. So we tried 2 times over a year and a half with 2 different platinum preferred partners for Microsoft. And we were just trying to build a really simple GL, just give us the 901, 902, 911, just something really simple, and just couldn't get it to function. Um, and what I like to kind of boil it down is what we paid for these 2 failed attempts to build just a single simple GL solution was way more than we paid for an entire QuickLaunch solution across all the modules, fully implemented. So there's your money answer to the money question: build versus buy.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, no, it really highlights, the importance of having that domain expertise and that, building that underlying source system application intelligence into your analytics strategy, right? No, that was a great answer. Thank you for that. So, after deciding to partner with us, how did getting Quick Launch implemented and getting this blueprint in action really help you to unify such a complex and diverse organization?
To answer that question, I think you just look at the slide, look at all the different companies and think about all the individual E1 JD Edwards systems behind them. When we do something, we just don't do it once and slog through it and say, hey, we did it. Let me tell you about it. We do it again and again and again and again, and we can replicate our successes over and over and over again. And that also shows again, the benefit of a pre-built solution. We just plug it in, all right? You basically install the base files, you point it to the E1 environment, and you say, start bringing over data. I oversimplify it, but those are the big steps. And then it just works. Post implementation, there'll be some measures you want to create and probably some custom tables you want to bring in, but 80-90% of it, I would say like 90% is already done, and it just works, right? You don't have to go there and kind of fix things and code things get to work. It just, you install it, you hook it up, you press the go button, and it just brings over the data.
Yeah, no, and that definitely highlights on that connect centralized point there. I know that you had mentioned, some use cases of, even though you haven't integrated all of these or unified all of these ERPs together, you're still, from a centralized architecture, able to query them, right? I think the use case you mentioned was around like negotiating oil prices, right?
Oh, yeah. So, all of since these are separate companies, we don't want, there's no real need to unify the data, but we have one central reporting platform to go to all that data. So if we get asked an enterprise question, I'll give you an example. Like, if all of our companies are buying fuel, diesel, from, your companies like your Chevrons, wouldn't it be better, instead of companies just going one at a time to negotiate prices for diesel, for instance, instead of going as individual companies, how about if we went across all the companies, and then you approach your companies, your big old companies like Chevron, and go, look, as an enterprise, here's how much we spend on diesel fuel, and we will buy from you, for a good negotiated rate. And that's what we've done. And how can we find out what our diesel fuel spend is across a wide variety of individual companies and going across their ledgers? Well, we use Power BI and we use the QuickLaunch solution, because now it's one reporting solution pointing to one solution, QuickLaunch, and we can get that information across the enterprise.
Yeah, that's awesome. It shows the power of, consolidated information and how that can benefit the business. The other powerful thing you touched on was really, you have the same board of directors across all these different companies, and they all want to see the same metrics, right? Can you touch on that a little bit and how that's helped the organization?
Yeah, in fact, I just got out of another BI session this morning with one of the companies because the plan, we're starting to plan for next year. And when one company says, I need a report that shows headcount turnover so we can plan for workforce for next year, another company is going to ask for it. And I know I'm going to get a call or request for a meeting for another company because they all report, even though they're individual companies, they all report to the same board of directors. And the same board of directors are going to have the same measures imposed upon these companies like ROIC and EBITDA and just headcount and projections. And because whenever we do something at one company, we can just show it to another company and go, is this what you're looking for? And they're like, yeah. And I go, well, we can totally do that because we've already done it. And it goes back to what I mentioned earlier when you just look at this slide. We don't do something one time. We do it once and then we do it again and again and again and again. So we can replicate our successes over and over again. And that's why I think we have a compelling story to tell.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I guess the last point on here was really kind of, I guess, one of um, the results of this of implementing this solution was that obviously you're validating the data back to E1, and I guess as part of this visualization exercise, you start to uncover a lot of data quality issues. Can you kind of just speak to how you guys were able to overcome those and with this solution?
Oh yeah, the best way to clean your ERP data is to implement a BI solution. Why? Because when you hook up a BI solution and like I said earlier, you hook it up and you say start bringing that data over. Well, for instance, if you have non-date characters or non-dates in a date field, when that data comes over and we're all SQL based here, SQL is going to just stop at that bad record, right? And having characters in number fields. And there may be a lot of ERP functional people saying that doesn't happen. But everybody that sits on the data side knows it happens. It happens quite frequently. And so when the data comes over and starts filling up your data marts, your data warehouses, it's going to stop on a record and it'll tell you what record. And then you have to go to the functional people and say, here's a list of all your bad records that you need to fix. And they do. Uh, and a lot of it's old legacy data that's come over years and years ago that no one's aware of. But that data has to be clean to come over. When we were implementing QuickLaunch, two of our companies had their inventory balance tables completely empty. Didn't know, and one was empty for a while because no one knew that in our ERP systems, the inventory balance stored procedure that calculates the inventory balances stopped running. And it was like, wow, we have zero inventory balances in our quick launch solution. Why? Oh, because there isn't any in your source tables because those stored procedures stopped and nobody knew about it. And so we fired them up. And one company took 3 days to run that stored procedure just to catch up the inventory balances. The other one wasn't so bad. But it's like, how can they function without inventory balances? Well, they were getting their balances by going through the transactions, which is you can do, but it's very inefficient. And so you come across things and fix it because bad data is exposed in the business intelligence solution.
Yeah, no, I think that maybe is a sometimes overlooked benefit, but certainly a powerful one. So thanks for touching on that. All right, so it's one thing to unify data, but the real test again is creating that business value. I know you have a couple stories here to highlight that. Can you start by just sharing the example around improving equipment utilization by unifying the IoT and CRM and ERP data?
Yeah, so one of our companies, we're the largest Komatsu dealership based in the Pacific Northwest. And so what we do is we sell, service heavy equipment, but we also rent it out. And one of the problems that the company's identified was when a company comes off a rental, what is supposed to happen is that a work order is supposed to be generated for that piece of machine to have a good once over by a mechanic, so it can be put out there to be rented and make revenue again. And what was happening was company or equipment was coming off a rental and just kind of sitting there. So what we needed to do is unify our fixed asset system, which holds the status for each piece of equipment. So when it's on rental, the status is on rental. When it's off rental, it's off rental. Well, so when something changes its status to off rental, a work order needs to be created. Well, that's in a work order system, right? So now what we can do by tying that data in or in that information together is we can start, when looking at companies, when they come off a rental, the clock starts ticking to when a work order is created. Not only that, but when a piece of equipment actually hits our lot, it goes through what we call the geofence. Well, we're bringing data from the IoT location information on that piece of equipment. So as soon as it hits our lot or one of our branch locations lot, the clock starts ticking to get a work order and get that work order done and turn around so it can be sent out there for rental. And what they were able to do by using Power BI and the QuickLaunch system and tying together all this data, they were able to half the time it takes to turn around a piece of equipment when it comes off rental to when it's ready to go out there and rental, more than half off. And they've been able to keep that off because now they're tracking that through Power BI. And then one other thing, sometimes a piece of equipment will come off a rental and it's parked on the side of a road on a mountain pass in Montana, right? So and nobody even knows, no one's even aware of it. Well, now they know through the tie-in of all this data that, hey, something just came off a rental and it's 200 miles away, sitting on the side of a mountain pass. Go and get it and bring it back. Right? So that's been helpful from tying all this data together and making them work, and then just counting the time between off rental and a work order.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great example, a powerful example of how, combining different data sources and adding context to your analysis can really go a long way. Um, that's a great ROI story. The other one you mentioned I thought was interesting here was around, the example at the copper mine and how you kind of challenge some long held beliefs there. Do you mind just walking us through that story and some of the results that came from it?
Yeah, so our copper mine is it's 24/7, just go go go, no breaks, no stops for Christmas, Thanksgiving, right? They have to, because it's all about volume to produce the copper moly that we need to. And there was just this long held belief that the most productive days were on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, primarily Sunday. And the reason is because, well, you don't have everybody else on site. You don't have all of the mechanics, and so you're not doing all the inspections and preventive maintenance because it's a weekend. So a lot of people take off. So it just really clears the deck and allows the people that run them, that actually do the mining, to do the mining. And when we hooked Power BI to all the data from all the sensors and equipment in the manufacturing process in the mine, what we're able to identify very quickly, because it's just very visual, that Sunday, which was a long held belief was their most productive day, Sunday turned out to be their second to last productive day.
Wow.
So it was quite an eye opener. And now we had the data, and of course the question is asked, well, why? And we had the data to show, well, guess what? Things are starting to break down more and more because this mine is running equipment that was put in the 1950s, right? And it's starting to break down more and more. And on Sundays, when the engineers and mechanics aren't there, these machines go down and then they're just turned off and they're waiting for people to come in Monday to fix it, right? Whereas before, they may have had some people with some amount of tribal knowledge to get the machines up and running again till somebody can come in and do a more permanent fix when the week starts again. And so that led to a lot of investment that's happening right now in the mine, where they're actually replacing a lot of old equipment, and they're not just replacing it with a single, like for instance, the cyclone pumps. We're just not replacing an old cyclone pump with a new one. We're replacing one with two, so we have redundancy, because now we have the numbers to see, hey, when these things go down for just scheduled maintenance, how much is it costing us in production? And it was able to, we were able to pencil out that it pays to have another cyclone pump on each line to have that redundancy put in place when it goes down, whether scheduled or unscheduled maintenance. But now we have the data to support that. So it was quite a big change there.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. It's an incredible example. I know, I think it was related to this, but I know you mentioned like just kind of how the shift in the decision-making process and how really your executives and leaderships have really, yeah, I think what you use the expression phones down, right? And they're kind of just all using, the Power BI and data analytics. Can you kind of just speak to the shift there and how that's happened?
Well, yeah, I mean, they've always been collecting this data, uh, but they've never really had anything to use it, right? They haven't been able to use it until Power BI came along, and now we can land all the data in one lake and display it. Makes it very visual. And so what this did is it challenged a lot of long held beliefs, like, hey, Sunday's our best day. But then it also showed things that maybe they suspected that were areas of inefficiency. Well, now we had the data where we could visualize it and show it, improve it, and not only say, yeah, that's a problem, but how much of a problem it is. And now we can uh, put things in, now the mind can put things in place to change that and then monitor it. And the nice thing about Power BI is that you can go in and look at usage data for the report. So you can go in any report and say, show me who's looked at this report, who's accessed and looked at it in the last 15 days. And what we're finding out is our senior executives, well, when I go and look at the usage report, our president, vice presidents of the companies, they're going in they start their morning by going to these Power BI reports. And I just had a meeting with actually the president of the mine. I was there 2 weeks ago, and he was mentioning how he goes into the usage reports to see who on his team is going into the reports. And of course, he told me he was very pleased to see that they are and do just like he does every morning.
Oh, that's awesome. Um, well, I know we have a couple questions here for you, but thank you for sharing those stories. Those are incredibly powerful, and it's great to see again the transformation and progress that you guys are making through data and through Power BI there at Washington Companies. Um, you know, I guess while every customer story is unique, the outcomes that we see from a unified data strategy really follow a common theme, right? So our clients are able to, as Steve just kind of alluded to, they're able to increase revenues and decrease costs and enhance productivity and efficiency, and ultimately reduce business risk, right? And another client, IGI Wax, was able to use their unified data to apply AI and machine learning in order to figure out how to reduce manufacturing waste, right? And so I think the ultimate point here is that when you're evaluating a technology investment, the key question is always, what business value will this create, right? So make sure you keep that in mind as you start or continue your analytics journey. So I know we've covered a lot today, from the chaos of the data dilemma to, this blueprint for success and some of the real world proof from the Washington companies. I think the key message here is that, transformation is not only possible, but it's also, faster and more cost effective than you might think. So this slide kind of recaps it. Your journey really starts now with connecting and centralizing your enterprise-wide data, and then ultimately conquering that business complexity with enterprise level data models. So I guess I just wanted to recap here with a few key takeaways as we wrap up and you start to think about your own journey. First, again, data chaos it is really a direct barrier to growth, right? And so, as Steve's story about the copper mine showed, when you rely on gut feel instead of facts, sometimes you miss major opportunities and make risky decisions that can ultimately cost you millions, right? So um, it is something that you want to address. And second, a unified platform is really the only way to achieve that single source of truth, right? It's that foundation for building trust in your data and empowering your teams with self-service. So you really cannot overlook that. The next one here, as Steve's story illustrated, the buy strategy with true domain expertise really accelerates your time to value and can save you from costly, time-consuming internal builds. And then lastly, it's not just about technology, right? It's about results. And so clear, unified data, as we just saw, drives tangible business outcomes that you can see on the bottom line. With that, we wanted to kind of leave you with some next steps here as if you're ready to start your own journey. So you can scan the QR code here on the screen and book a free personalized strategy session with our team. You can also explore some of our resources on our website. We also included a QR code to download a free ebook that really covers this blueprint in depth. So make sure to check that out, and then also stay connected with us. You can follow us on YouTube or LinkedIn for latest analytics news and updates. So with that brings us to our Q&A section. So continue to submit your questions down in the panel, and Steve and I will try to get those in the time we have left. So I had two questions here around adoption. So I know, Steve, many companies struggle with user adoption, and especially when introducing new analytics tools. How did you encourage your teams to kind of move away from the old webby crystal reports or spreadsheets and start to embrace this new sort of self-service visual analytics approach?
You really can't rely on organic growth. You really have to get it in front of the customer and show its value, right? The best way you can do that is show them something in the visualization that they weren't aware of about their own business. If you can show somebody who's running a business something about their business that they weren't aware of, or maybe they had a suspicion of, but when you can show it through the data visually, it makes such an impact. So try and go for that. But once you show it, it helps if you do it at the top level. This is a top level down. Not saying it can't be bottoms up, but where we've had success across our enterprise is when you engage at like, let's say, a particular problem or area of the business with leadership, because something new needs to be kind of rolled out at that level, and then pushed down into the company. That's where we've had success. Where we've also had success is just where somebody at our operating companies, because this is a self-service, our strategy is self-service. So the BI team here, we don't make any reports. What we do is we spin up and build, maintain, support the environments, and we train and support the users to build their own content. And we just help out with where complex query and analysis is needed. But if you can find just that one person to start building Power BI reports in an organization, and they have access to leadership will tell them what they want to see, right? but they really need that guidance from leadership. What do you want to see in your visualization? What do you want on your dashboard? What do you want on your Power BI report? Otherwise, you're just making up stuff and throwing it out there. So that's why we think top down is where it needs to start. Otherwise, you're just making pretty pictures, right? And pretty pictures really don't get looked at when they're up when they get into the leadership area.
Very true. So yeah, executive buy-in and
Mm-hmm.
leadership there is important, right? Yeah, I think the other thing you mentioned was just around, I guess, what was the expression you used? Uh, it was really around, was it the teach a man to fish one? But how like it took you could just the learning curve for Power
Oh,
BI was so much easier, right?
so much faster when like say starting 18 years ago when we were rolling the business object solution, which was the solution to use back then.
Mm-hmm.
I would spend weeks, months with each company as we would roll out the solution to each company one at a time until it was rolled out to all of them. But literally weeks and months, I would be sitting with the users and getting them to understand it. And with Power BI, I spent like 30 minutes training a person, just giving them the basics. And then they just start watching some YouTube content, guys in Cube and stuff like that. And the very next day, after spending just 30 minutes with them, giving them access, giving some of the basics, I can't tell you how many times I would get a call going, "Hey, Steve, I was working on something. You want to see it?" And I go, "Yeah, show me." I'm like blown away. I'm like, I couldn't have even done that. How did you, and it just take off. There's something about visualization that really taps into the creative side of people. And believe it or not, there's a lot of creative people sitting in your finance and accounting and purchasing and inventory, very visual, and it's just like an outlet for them, right? And there's just Power BI is so easy to learn, and there's so much content out there where you can self-learn and grow in it. And I would I could take another hour just telling you and even showing you examples of what our companies are building and using to run their business.
That's awesome. Well, maybe we'll hold you to that and have a
Mhm.
follow-up webinar for that. But no, so another question I had here what were there any surprises or unexpected benefits that came out of implementing the unified platform?
Uh, as was alluded to before, one of the side benefits or byproducts of using BI is how you can clean the data, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, when everybody thinks their data is clean because of all the controls and everything in their ERP and their other systems of records, but until you start bringing it over into a data warehouse, uh, you you start to see things that no one was aware of, right? Because bad data isn't exposed in an ERP system; it reveals itself uh, through a business intelligence or an analytics solution. You know why? Because that's where the data is displayed and it's raw. Whenever we get a call saying, "Hey, we have this report and it's wrong," we can just map the data all the way back to the system of record. And every single time, it's like, nope, that's what it says in your system of record, and that's what we have to go by. So if our revenue wasn't that much, well, that's what your system says. So you need to address it in your system of record. You address it there, it'll come over to BI, and then the report was. So it's not that the report's wrong; it's just not their expectations, because their expectations was different than what the data was supporting. So that's always the biggest surprise. And by the way, people are they're appreciative of that. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't know that. We didn't know that our inventory balances haven't been running since 2018. Thanks for letting us know. That kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But they wouldn't know unless you implement the business intelligence solution.
Yeah, no, totally makes sense. Okay, well, last question here. For a company that's just at the very beginning of their analytics journey, what's the one piece of advice or thing you'd say to them?
If you're doing product selection or wondering how you're going to do it, don't try building it. Buy. Again, going back to what we started with, the build versus buy. I can't tell you enough from, if you buy a solution from business continuity perspective, I can't tell you how many times we've implemented a solution because, when we first started 18 years ago, all of our companies was on JDE World. So we had to build a solution against that. They were going through an upgrade to E1, Enterprise One JD Edwards. So then we had to implement it again when E1 came out, and that was E1 8.0. So then when all the companies went to 8.1, guess what? If we would have built this thing, we would have to, oh man, we gotta now, change or rebuild everything in-house to work with 8.1 and then 8.2 and then 9.0, then 9.1, 9.2. We went through all these upgrades. Every time our company upgraded, what we did is we called the vendor, like QuickLaunch, and said, hey, we're upgrading. Can we get the latest, ETL process, connector, and semantic model? And they just go, here you go. Some of these upgrades were very abrupt. We had one company that we only got like 90 days notice that they're upgrading because they needed to meet a deadline for a governance thing. So they needed to upgrade their E1 system to the next level. And we just said, send us it. And we were able to make that deadline. We also went through a period where, so all of our ERP systems, the back end was the iSeries, and we ended up moving them all to SQL. Well, guess what? We had to implement the solutions all over again. What did we do? Hey, you sent us, we've been running on the iSeries solution. Send us your SQL solution. And they go, here you go. And we just implemented the SQL solution. So from a business continuity perspective, you just can't beat it. And then, as I alluded to at the start, from a cost perspective, right? Because what you'll spend buying and putting in, you'll get there a lot faster. I think all of our implementations with QuickLaunch was what, 5 weeks, you know. But and that probably the one other thing I would say is, if you've never done a business intelligence solution, give more time because again, when you bring that data over the first time, you're going to find out that you got a lot of dirty data that you're going to have to work with your functional people to clean up. And, because you don't have that solution in place until all the data comes over clean. So just allow it for that. I mean, the reason why we can implement it over and over again is because we implemented it that first time, and all the data is clean and it's staying clean because of our analytics and business intelligence solutions.
Yeah, no, those are great points. Those are a solid answer. Well, we're about at time now, so I guess Steve, thank you so much for sharing the Washington company story and what you guys are accomplishing there. It's been very enlightening. And then, yeah, thank you everybody else for coming and spending some time with us today. We hope you got some value out of today's session. If you're interested in learning more, we have a few more webinars coming up. We have another customer, Uris, who's going to be highlighting their transformation. And then we also will be doing a webinar with a partner, JDE Mart, that'll really focus on kind of how AI has been infused into the analytics stack, from the consumer to the creator to the developer. So a lot of great demo rich features in that session as well. So yeah, I hope everybody has a great rest of your week, and thanks for coming.
Thanks. We'll see you.
See you.